Good morning. So welcome to the this Property Life podcast. I'm Nick Claydon, one of the trainers and mentors for Property Wealth System. And I'm here with Gemma Russell, who has been a guest before, back in, I believe, November time.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so welcome, Gemma. Good to have you back with it. I'm very excited to hear about all the new stuff that you've been doing. I know there's been lots of exciting challenges for you to overcome, so it will be great to hear all about that. We'll be having a good chat for the next half hour or so. I guess we'll start with maybe just a bit of background for anyone that maybe hasn't heard your original podcast that we did last year. If you just want to give yourself a bit of an intro and just tell us a bit about you and how you got into property and kind of where you're up to at the moment.
Okay, cool. So so thank you for having me on again. I was quite interesting when I got asked to do it, just like a little update of what you've been up to since November, and I was like, what have I done? Like I actually can't remember. So I actually wrote everything down just so that I could remember what I've actually done, because it all goes in such a whirlwind. But November. Sorry?
I said time flies when you're busy. It's just when did that 8 months ago? I don't know.
It's crazy. And I think as well, you're so used to just living in the moment and going day to day that I'm particularly bad for not reflecting and, looking back and thinking about, I actually have achieved a little bit. So it's probably a good thing to do every so often. But when I was on the podcast last, up until that point, I had been part of PWS for just over a year and a half, I think. I'd started in, I think, the beginning of 2021, and I came across an advert on Facebook, and I'd always, had an eye open to the whole world of property and things like that. I used to be I was in network marketing at the time. Okay. And I, really enjoyed doing that. I was making good money with it, but I just felt like there was an easier way to make some money, and obviously like the long term in terms of passing on to the kids and things like that. So I started with PWS, and then I did mentorship, and with Jordan, and which I absolutely loved. We went down to my investment area, and on the back of that secured a 3-bed house, which I then flipped, and a 1-bed flat, which I have as a buy-to-let.
Excellent. Okay.
At the same time, I was also renovating a 5-bedroom house in an area called Murrayshire, which I was turning into service accommodation. So I had all three going on at the same time, which was also a huge learning curve.
Yes.
Three different strategies, 3 different types of refurbs. Yeah, it was very different, and 2 different areas. So that was fun as well. And I didn't live in any of them.
Right. So just in terms of a bit of background, where are you based?
So I'm in Aberdeen.
Okay.
The flip and the buy-to-let was down in Kilmarnock, which is a 3.5-hour journey, so 7-hour round trip. And the 5-bed service accommodation is in a place called Fauquebers, which is a little village in Murrayshire, which is an hour and 15 door to door. So 2.5 hours return. Yeah. So that was fun. Put a lot of miles in my car. I have a child, so having to put her to school a little bit early, put her into after school club, racing to get back. Literally sometimes we'd have an hour and a half down the road to do what I needed to do and get back up. So I had to rely on people for babysitting and things like that when I could. Otherwise it was straight back home. So it was very, very busy.
Are you working at the moment as well, or are you in property full time now?
So I'm a hypnotherapist. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, and self-employed though. So I get to pick and choose when I do clients. So I'm very lucky in that respect that I can just fit everything in around it. So I don't have a 9-to-5 job essentially. So it was very, very full on, and obviously 3 different strategies, 2 different build teams. Didn't have a clue what I was doing. Obviously I'd done all the education, but you do not learn properly until you're doing it. It's fun.
Exactly. Reading and education and watching YouTube videos can take you so far, but until you're actually getting your get your hands dirty and getting involved, that's when the learning kind of really starts, I think.
Yeah, and that's true learning at that stage.
Yeah.
So I think the last time I was on the podcast was last November, and I, at that stage, had completed everything, was just about to sell the 3-bed house, was renting out the buy-to-let 1-bed flat, and I had been running the service accommodation for about 3 months at that point, and it had been going really well because I just happened to secure like workmen coming in every single week, and then it was free for the weekends, so just did really well with that. So that's where I was up until last November, and then after that, I have the main thing that I've been doing is building up that service accommodation, and all of the pitfall. I was on a service accommodation course.
I was going to say, let's jump back to that, because you went on one of our service accommodation implementer courses, which is 2 days with a mentor. There was maybe 10 of us in the room, so quite a small group. Yeah, and it's just really quite intensive kind of learning with a mentor live in the room, and being able to ask as many questions as you want and get as much info as you can about how to really establish a service accommodation business. So take us kind of from there. What did you learn on that really helped you move forward, and where have you gone with it? Because I know there's some exciting things that you've done.
Yeah, so that course was invaluable. It was so good. It was packed, and it was absolutely packed, full of information that I was able to then take home. And because I already had a service accommodation that was running, it was so good for me to learn just all of the things that I need to make it more successful, optimize it, and also. Sorry.
What kind of things did you take from it? Because I know we did a lot on getting a listing looking really good, and optimization of of your listings to try and reach the right audience, those kind of things. So was it that, or what else did you find that was really, really helpful you could take away?
So that as well, I was actually I think that they went through my listing itself because I was already on Airbnb. So at the time, I think I was only on Airbnb, and our mentors went through exactly what to do to make it more appealing, what was working already that was good, and what I needed to do in order to make it better. So things like the photos, how to word it, and all sorts of little nooks and crannies that you just wouldn't know by yourself. You have to be taught these things. So that was really helpful. And then I learned about systems, so channel managers, using other OTAs. I didn't even know OTA was a thing, online travel agent. I had no idea that was a thing. Learning all about that, and learning how to systemize absolutely everything so that it's, if you choose to, it's much more hands-off. And essentially that is exactly what I wanted to achieve. So that was really good. So I went home, started up a channel manager, learned again, taught how to use these things and what to do, but until you actually use them yourself and find the pitfalls with it, it's just the process you have to go through. It's just part of the learning curve. And I didn't realize that once you hook, so I use Smoobu, once you hook up so I have 3 OTAs, Booking.com, Vrbo, and Airbnb. Once you hook up to Smoobu, it does not allow you to change on Airbnb. It doesn't allow you to change prices. It has to be done through Smoobu, but it does on Booking.com. And it also then charges you all the fees and not your guests. So I really quickly learned that lesson from people booking really cheap. And I was like, what's happened? And then having to change that around really fast, and then figure out, okay, so they're charging X, amount of percentage. So I need to add that on. And I mean, that is a process that there's no other way to learn it than going through it. Yeah. So again, the course is so valuable for stuff like that. And then things like, which I thought was fascinating, which I haven't done just yet because I haven't upscaled just yet, but things like when you take in a booking, when you have a particular channel manager, you can take in a booking, it pings your cleaners to let them know, and then it sets your heating so that it comes on an hour before check-in and it goes off an hour after check-out and things like that. Absolutely brilliant. Like the automatic emails that go out to them, all that sort of stuff. Like I've done a few of those, but not the heating stuff.
Yeah.
But knowing that that is available for when you scale up is superb. So again, would have never have known.
Yeah, I think that, you know, there's a lot of students I talk to kind of want to do service accommodation and then maybe a little bit scared about the fact that it is quite hands-on. It is hospitality. My answer is, well, actually, it doesn't have to be hands-on. You can automate so many things. There's so many amazing pieces of software out there now. So even the heating system you're talking about, we're putting that in our hotel in Edinburgh, and it's now evolved to the point where you can put room sensors on the wall that you put near the bed, and it can sense, you know, obviously when someone's in the room, and it will keep the heating at a certain level. But if it senses that there's no one in the room, there's no movement, it will drop the heating right down again. So, you know, you can save. They're averaging between 30 and 60% savings on heating bills. Just
wow.
System, yeah. So there are some really amazing pieces of software out there that can automate so much of your business, and that's one of the things I love about service accommodation. I'm always kind of looking for new software that's coming out, and it's evolving all the time. So it can be as hands-on or as hands-off as you want it, really. That's the beauty of that strategy. That's why I love it.
Yeah, and I think for me, having such a big place to begin with has been great for. I've self-managed it all because I wanted to learn all of the pitfalls and fully understand it, so that when I do switch to everything being completely hands-off, or maybe even dealing with a staff member who's dealing with certain aspects of it, then I know exactly what's happening in my business. I really wanted to be able to do that rather than just passing it over to begin with.
Yeah, I think you've got to learn it first. You've got to understand it before you can hand it over, because you know, this is something we've learned is, you know, whatever, if you have VAs or PAs that you're working with, or staff that can handle certain things, you know, there's always going to be something, because you're in the hospitality, there's always going to be a situation that you would never have thought in a million years would happen. You know, you can try and think of every scenario that might possibly happen, but we're dealing with human beings, and there'll be something completely out of left field that, you know, if you don't know how to handle it or cope with it, your staff can't either. So you have to go through that process of I think, being a bit hands-on, understanding how everything works, and then hand it over. But you can still then kind of hover above, if you like, and deal with those, you know, 1 in 1,000 events that will happen when you're dealing with human beings, I think. So we have
had some humdingers so far.
Let's hear some. I was going to ask you and talk to you about some of your challenges and overcoming adversity, the subject of this particular podcast. But yeah, so, you know, let's hear some of the things that have happened and how you've dealt with it.
So we had a really good run for a good few months and nothing happened. The tiny little bit of a damages, you know, they'd stuck blue tack to the paint, it had come off, and, you know, my caretaker, who's also my uncle, would just go in and give it a little paint. Just tiny little things like this were happening. No big deal at all. Certainly not going to go after them for deposits. And then we had one. So we sleep 12. So we're obviously like open for big parties and things like that for like youngsters coming or whatever. But usually they're all really, really good. So we had this. I think they were young couples, like 20s, maybe early 20s. And the guest messaged me when they had left, and they said, "Listen, somebody accidentally broke the shower panel, and obviously it's been completely refurbed, and it's like 6 months old at this point." And I was like, "Okay." And she said, my boyfriend thought it was a door." And I was like, "Okay." So my cleaners go in, my uncle goes in, and they're like, "What has he done to this?" So turns out we have almost like a rectangular shape shower, and we've got a huge solid glass panel at the end of this shower, and to the side of it is, you know, like almost like a half door.
Yeah.
So that is where you go in and out, where the door is, obviously. And the only reason we stuck that in there is because we saw that water was cascading out. So we thought, we'll just stick a wee bit of a shower panel to stop the water coming out. So instead of just walking out of the door, he grabbed the glass panel at the end of it and yanked it. And this is so heavy that when my uncle went to move it, it fell on him. It's that heavy, this glass.
Wow.
And so when the boy pulled it out of the socket, the bracket hit the wet wall, marked the wet wall. The glass panel fell against it, and it luckily never smashed, but it created about £600 worth of damage. And at the time, obviously being a newbie, I didn't know how to deal with it properly. So when I actually saw the photos, bearing in mind they're an hour and 15 away, and we've got guests going in later on that day.
Yeah.
When I saw the photos, they tried to put it in, they couldn't get it fixed. So we just had to explain to the guests, look, you can't use this shower. You know, the previous guest had broken it. And over the course of a few days and then weeks, I got it all fixed and went to them with the bill. And then I got text messages. I am a trainee lawyer. I took photos. You're trying to scam us. You're trying to say that we did this. And I was like, your boyfriend mistook a solid shower wall, essentially, for a door. We're not the ones that are in the wrong here. So just arguing with stupid. And I just realized that this is pointless. And on the back of that, I thought, okay, I probably need to go down because if it's booked through Airbnb, they don't take a deposit. You have to go through the dispute centre, show evidence and all that sort of stuff. But I thought, oh, well, you know, they've been decent people by letting me know they'll be okay we can just sort it out ourselves. But no, you know, it didn't work like that. They thought that I was trying to scam them, and they came out with all this rubbish, and I just thought, wow, this is impossible. So yeah, just like that sort of thing, just ridiculous. We've had stains on our beds that we've had workmen stay over, and we contacted them and said, look, there's this big yellow stain, and they said, oh yeah, the guy said it's chocolate milk. We were like, it's not chocolate milk, but okay, that's fine, just pay for the stuff. We've had all sorts of stuff. And then very recently we had a situation where I was kind of taken aback by it, where Airbnb had contacted me and said, we've just had a guest of yours complain that you have violated the privacy and safety issues policy, and we have suspended your account. You will not be able to take any more reservations, and we may have to cancel up and coming. This is in the height of the summer. And I was like, oh my God, why? What's happened? So they wouldn't tell me anything. They just, you know, they just wanted my point of view of the story. And what had happened was, this is a massive detached house in huge grounds with a driveway. We had gone up to collect the wheelie bins. I just happened to be in Falkirk that day. We got up to collect the wheelie bins and put them out because they go out once every 3 weeks there. And the guest came round the corner from the deck in the hot tub and said, you all right? And I was like, yes, really sorry. We're just grabbing the wheelie bins, just taking them out. He said, oh, there's a bit of rubbish at the front door if you want to grab that. And we were like, yeah, no problem. And that was it. And he complained and said that we had broken our privacy. We'd invaded their privacy. And I was just so taken aback. You know, most people are so chatty and like love having the crack and finding out about the village and stuff like that. But I just thought, wow, and to potentially have me shut down because I took the wheelie bins out. You know, had that house been on a normal street, I would have grabbed the wheelie bins and put it out onto the pavement. You know, but because it was a private drive, I was just, what more do you expect? So little things like that. Being at the mercy of the OTAs and realizing, okay, so now I've really focused on getting my website up and running. We've got it, you know, up to the stage run. Now we need to really work on it because direct bookings needs to be the way forward.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's something that we teach on our courses as well. Is great. Look, you need to have the OTAs. You need Booking.com. And you know, for certain listings, you need Airbnb, and there's various others. But those are the two major ones. Booking.com particularly. I mean, we found one of our listings that we've got a hotel in Southport, it's got a flat on the back of it, and last year we split the flat from the hotel, and the flat was only ever on Airbnb, and that seemed to work. But then as soon as we split it off, we could split the listing with Booking, and our bookings went up about 60%. When we could put it on Booking.com as well as Airbnb.
Wow, really?
Been flying since.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, unfortunately. What we've learned is you need Booking.com to get going, get your reviews, and to build awareness and build your market. But then it's all about driving those direct bookings. And saving that 18% that you have to pay Booking.com. What I also discovered was that Booking.com will also try and undercut you. So even if you have on your website, you're offering, the best rates, book direct. Booking.com are wise to that now, and they have algorithms that will actually try and undercut your own website. Really? So you're constantly in a state of battle with Booking.com, but you need them. But driving direct bookings is kind of what it is all about.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot
Yeah,
of
so you're learning all the time. I'm constantly learning about Booking.com. I say there's kind of it's a love-hate relationship with Booking.com.
Yeah,
you need them and you love them because they bring so many so many guests to you.
yeah.
But they do take their pound of flesh for it.
Oh, they do.
Yes. So yeah, I wanted to discuss with you things like how do you stay motivated when all these things are happening? You're in Aberdeen, you're driving, an hour and a half down to your investment, sometimes 2.5 hours down to your investment areas. You've got a busy job. Yes, it's flexible. You've got a kid, that has to be in school. How do you how do you deal with a lot of the negativity that can be around property and the hardships that we face as property investors? How do you stay positive?
So I think like life has changed a lot for me in the last, probably just as I had done the podcast in November. I also have 2 stepkids now, and I live with my partner, and we've sort of merged our families together, and so that has been going on in the background, as well as running this business. And so it's ever changing. It's always adapting. Like, you just cannot live life without being able to adapt to all of the changes, especially for us in the last year. We've had so much to adapt to. And I think in terms of motivation and keeping going, it's the kids. It's ultimately long term, it's the kids, but in the here and now, it's the success and it's the money. And because, I do love the service accommodation side, I'm all about the sales. I love getting that ping that comes through in my phone that says you've got a new booking. That's my favourite part of it all.
The pulse app. You use the pulse app where it's a little ching sound when you get it out.
Yeah, I absolutely love waking up and knowing that I've just taken a booking that's going to drop £2,000 into my bank account, and that's extra because everything else has been paid. I just absolutely love the money side of it and the sales side of it. So that's my favourite part. Long term, it's obviously the kids and being able to leave them stuff and the legacy side of it and setting them up for the future and being able to teach them all about property. Monopoly is my favourite game to play with them, and like all that side of it. But in terms of we've obviously had the summer and it's been great, but we're just about to come back into the winter, and I know the sort of the motivation that it takes, or it's not even it's the discipline that it takes to have to travel in the freezing cold, and we're right up in the sticks here, so it's icy weather and snow and and all the rest of it. And it's, to be honest, the main thing for me is just success. I enjoy the success. I enjoy being good at what I do. I enjoy getting that money coming in, and I want more and more and more and more, because I love the fact that this was a whole new challenge to me a couple of years ago, and now I'm part of all of these communities. I've met all these new people. It's just another change and direction, a pivot in life sort of thing, and I just want more of it. I want to be able to live life completely on my own terms, 4 or 5 holidays a year, if the kids choose to go to private school when they're going into secondary school, be able to pay for that if that's what is the right path for them. All of the sort of stuff that you work for is all of the things that keeps me disciplined, I suppose.
And how do you kind of action that on a daily basis? Because we've all had the days where I live in Scotland too, and in the depths of winter when you're I've one of our hotels in South, plus 4-hour drive. To keep that motivation to get up when it's dark and get in the car and drive that distance in the bad weather. You've got the big picture of family and everything, but are there any techniques that you use kind of on a daily basis to help yourself just keep that positivity and to keep getting in the car and doing those journeys and pushing forward?
So there's obviously there's non-negotiables. So it's a little bit like, I will say, when you go to the gym. So I go to the gym 3-4 times a week. If I want my body to look a particular way, then I have to go. There's no two ways about it. And it's that consistency of going. So last year, at the end of the year, I only went, or maybe it was the year before, I only went a couple of times a week, and I was really having to push myself. And I could feel it in my body, physically, mentally, everything else. And then at the beginning of the year, I thought, in order for me to feel as good as I did before, I have to go 3-4 times a week, really watch what I'm eating during the week, etc., etc. You can't expect to have abs and go to the gym once every 4 weeks. So that sort of, I suppose the way you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you are going to have that attitude of, oh, I might do it once every 4 weeks or whenever, or when I can be bothered, it's just never going to work for you.
Yeah.
So in terms of the dailies, I have the non-negotiables that I have to do every day. So I am a little bit anal, might be the word, when it comes to things like your daily method of operation.
Yes, so, that's great to hear. This, I think, it's really useful stuff, you know, for these guys to hear in terms of how you do it. You know, the actual mechanics of like keeping yourself motivated. It's not just something that happens. You have to make it happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, nobody can be bothered. Who can be bothered going to the gym when it's -4 degrees outside and it's snowing? Nobody can be bothered doing that. Nobody can be bothered getting the rejection constantly. You know, nobody wants that in their lives. Like we're actually designed to battle against rejection because, you know, back in the day, years and years and years ago, when we were banned from our communities, that's why the churches have got these banned windows, they're called. And it, like this, if you were rejected from your community or you were banned, you had to sit outside and look through this little window into this church and saw everybody having a great time and you were shunned to the side. So it's innately built into our brains that we can't, that's why kids can't cope with rejection as well. So, you know, it's because and it's just something that we need to learn, that in business or, well, mainly business, but getting used to rejection is just par for the course with it. So nobody wants to feel that. Nobody wants to have that. Nobody's motivated to go, like, I cannot wait to go out today and get 5 no's. I can't wait to go out today and get all of my offers rejected. I'm so excited for it. Nobody ever feels like that. But it's just knowing that, you know, when you get that 5 no's, that 6th one might be a yes. And so for me, there's the daily method of operation that I have. I literally have a little tick list, and there's the things that I work on every single day, like going on Rightmove or Zoopla, and like looking for the things that I'm trying to, you know, depending on what I'm focusing on. And then there's the things I absolutely have to do when it comes to my cleaners. For, you know, my service accommodation, I have to buy the products that they need. I have to buy my supplies, so I'll supply toilet roll and things like that. So those are the things that have to be done every single day to make sure that that runs smoothly, to make sure that, you know, I'm getting those 5-star reviews. And then I have to deal with the guests. And so it's all the things that I must do on the daily basis, which are you're running your production every day. And then there's the growth side of it, which is the Rightmove, the Zoopla, the making the offers, the going doing the viewings. And those things, again, then fitting it in around your whatever job that you've got going on, your kids, etc. And there's days where I do absolutely nothing because I can't get past this one task that I've been trying for ages, and I get fed up, or, you know, whatever's going on with me in a day, like I just think, oh, this isn't working. So I do have those days, like everybody else does as well. But I think that it's just remembering that it's just one day, and getting up the next day and think, okay, what can I do now today? And I have moments where I cry. My boyfriend would love to tell this story because he absolutely loves it, but I'll tell you because he thinks it's great. But a couple of weeks ago, our kids started back at school, so 6 weeks off school, and I obviously have to work around them. But it's one of those things where it doesn't really matter. Even if you do manage to work around them, it's just not quite the same as getting those 6 hours when they're at school. So I was buzzing, absolutely delighted to get them back. And they left on Tuesday morning. I was like, see you later. And I forgot to take a photo of my daughter, all done up in her primary house.
Okay, yeah, the front door photos.
Yeah. So we're on a group chat for our family, and my partner's sister sent in the photos of her kids. My partner sent in photos of his kids, and I had forgot mine. And by the time I got to school, the gym, I was crying. I was a terrible mother. I was phoning him like, I'm so bad. I can't do anything right. I'm not good at business. I'm not good at being a mum. And he was like, Gemma, how much money did you earn last month? Like profited and like you're taking home. And I was like, £11,000. And he was like, right, so you're really not good at business. And I was like, it's not the point. I'm not doing enough. I don't have enough coming in. I don't have enough lined up. I'm getting all these offers rejected. And he was just like, you need to just stop. So I think there are those moments where you have those, it doesn't matter what's going on in your life or how successful or not you are or whatever it is, like everybody has those moments of just like, I can't do this. And it's just about the next day I got up and I was like, right, I'm back.
Oh, yeah.
Let's crack on.
I think we all have that. So that's kind of the resilience side of it, is to accept that we're all going to have bad days. But it's how it's not having the bad day. We all have bad days, but it's how you deal with that bad day, and how you pick yourself back up again and get back out there. We've had a lot of that recently. Get rejection. We've put a lot of work into an offer that we're making on a building for a service accommodation unit. We had architects go in, we had QSs go in, and we put a really good bid together, and then someone just came out of the water and just blew it away. Really frustrating. And we're like, really, need the next project on the go. We're a bit deflated for a couple of days, and then literally 3 days ago, or on Friday, a much better building suddenly came up. It came directly. I'm like, right, there it is, and we went to view it straight away, and hopefully we're going to be putting another bid on that, and hopefully we'll get that one. So you can go from complete deflation one day to elation the next day. Right, the next thing is better, but it's about that consistency of keeping going and just getting back up and getting back out there, I think.
Yeah, and I'm a big believer as well, is that when you're doing the action, regardless, that everything does fall into place. And so the reason that you guys never got that one is because something's better is out there, but you can't see it in that moment, because you need to go through the process of like the loss, and then you give yourself a certain amount of time. Okay, let's crack on, and then something better comes along. But it's just part of the course. We just have to deal with it.
It's what I try and teach all students that come to the system that I work with is focus on the actions, and the results will take care of themselves. So if you keep going out there and you keep getting in the car and driving down the motorway, and you're doing all the actions on a consistent basis, the results will take care of themselves. And yes, there'll be ups and downs within that, and you'll miss things that you wanted. But as you say, the right thing will be around the corner. So it's just, but if you're not giving yourself the opportunity, then I think a lot of people find that as a block, and they use that as a block. This is not working. Well, it does work. You just got to keep going.
Yeah, that's all there is to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was going to ask you, we've talked a lot about some of the attributes, but what are some of the other attributes you think that make a successful property investor? Kind of talked about resilience and overcoming objections. Anything else you would say?
I think the ability to stay consistent. So I think consistency in your, as you said there, the actions, like taking the actions, no matter what, no matter how many rejections you're getting, keep going. And that consistency, even if it's just 30 minutes a day, that you're doing the same thing over and over again, eventually it will work. I had a coffee with a sourcer yesterday, property sourcer. We've actually just got a flat off of him. And we, because he can find these deals all over the shop, and I'm good at finding investors. And so like his strength was my weakness and vice versa. So we met for a coffee, and I said to him, what is it? How have you got to this position where you find sourcing, and, we're just having a normal chat about property and stuff. And he said, I put in all of the hours. I must have viewed about 200 properties in Aberdeen. And now I have all of the relationships with the estate agents. I have at the point where they're bringing things to me now off market. But he had to put that work in the first wee while to really build all of that up. That takes time and effort, and he was rejected for the first 4 to 6 months. Constant no's. For a lot of people, that would deflate them to the point where they would stop. So that consistency of keeping that action up is so vital, because now he's a year down the line, and he's in the position where he's sourcing properties left, right, and centre, because he did so much work, and he has that ability to tap into all of these estate agents and the market in Aberdeen now, and he's knocking out the park. But it only came to him because he worked so hard in the beginning. And so I think that consistency, along with the resilience, is that yes, you're going to get knocked back. You just have to keep getting up and keep going. And now he's in that position where it's really, really benefited him, and he can then work with people like myself, who I've flitted all over the place to go to different investment areas. And I'm a little bit of a magpie. I think I said that in the last one. I get really like, ooh, let's do service accommodation. Ooh, let's do buy-to-lets. Ooh, let's do this. So I'm a little bit all over the shop. So someone like him who's saying, here's a deal, it's a cracking deal, and I'm like, give it to me. So, and that works well for somebody like myself, and what he does works well for someone like himself. So yeah, I think consistency is a huge part of it as well, alongside the resilience, for sure.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So what's next for you? It's great to hear everything you've done so far, but yeah, what's on the horizon?
Yeah. So we've had lots of offers rejected. As I said, we also went for a big B that's runs as a B&B just now, and we put an offer in. We gave them the highest offer we possibly could, and they wouldn't budge. So we want to turn it into an apart hotel. It is still on the market, so I'm still following up every so often. So who knows? It may work out. I'm going to just try and stick in there with them. We looked at a B-listed property that was 4 different properties. Absolutely loved the idea of it. Took our builders along, spoke to the architect, but we realised for us and our strategy right now, which is cash flow, that would be more of a labour of love, something that when we've got our own pot of money built up, we could probably put into, just not for right now. Having to walk away from deals that are great deals, but just not right for you and your strategy is also something that I've had to learn, because they always say don't get emotionally attached, and that's something that I would absolutely have been emotionally attached to. So it took a little bit to be able to just take off the rose-tinted glasses and realise it's just not quite the right deal for us at this moment in time. But in 5 years' time, when we're way more experienced, got more money in the bank, that's something that we could put in our own money to, as opposed to investors. Yeah. As I said, we've just got a 1-bed flat that we are considering maybe service accommodation, which will be the first one we've done in Aberdeen. Okay. And we also had a bit of experience as well recently with all of the mortgage crisis and the rates flying up. We moved into a house together. We rented out the 2 houses that we owned previously individually. And when we were renting them out, one of the mortgages went £700 more. So we realised that we were losing money. So we decided our tenants left, and we decided to sell both houses. They have not sold. They are not selling. So we've stuck tenants in them for the minute until that they sell, because we were bleeding money, not being able to pay those mortgages every single month. So yeah, we really we've had to adapt so much with everything that's had going on, as everybody else in the world of property has had to just adapt so much to it. We even were in the paper, because we met in this estate and we met on the street. So I phoned the paper, got our mug shots in the paper, they found love on the street and all this sort of stuff, just to try and boost the publicity for it and sell them. Still didn't work. So we sold our souls, and it didn't work.
Yeah, it's all the challenges that we all face. But it's great to hear that you're doing so well, and you're still pushing forward and making things happen. So
yeah, just keep going.
Keep going. Yeah. So fab. Right. Well, thanks so much, Gemma. Great to catch up. And hopefully we'll catch up with you again very soon.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Thanks, Gemma.